We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Vikings Uncensored. We are back after a couple week shutdown due to various different things, vacations and some life getting in the way kind of stuff. But we're here tonight. We are here to hit all of the big stuff. Mandatory minicamp this week finished off today, I believe, which pretty much wraps up the off-season activities.
Well, I do. Isn't there like voluntary OTAs next week too?
I think there might be another OTA, but nothing that's open to the pressy or to the beat reporters or anything.
Right.
So we won't hear much out of that, if anything. But we'll go over some of the highlights. It's been, I don't know if it's just me or it seemed like was less stuff coming out of camp mini camp and stuff this year than in previous years.
Dave, Ant, love it.
Skull Mafia, Doc Proto, Dave, Ant, everybody in the chat. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us as always. But it seemed like the stuff trickling out it wasn't a lot. So I don't.
A lot of at least the stuff trickling out are good things for the most part.
Well, yeah, there is that. But there are plenty of other news items, rumors, and all of that other stuff going on. So we'll hit that kind of stuff first, and then we'll kind of go through the highlights of minicamp and some of the things that have been coming out of there anyway. Been some kind of interesting releases over the past week. First off, the Bengals released linebacker Jermaine Pratt, team captain and top 10 in tackles last year, and they released him. Of course, they just paid Jamar Chase a assload of money, and we're paying Joe Burrow an even bigger assload of money. So, and they had to pay T. Higgins a buttload of money. So,
yeah, they're going to be in cap hell here in the next few seasons over there in Cincy.
Well, yeah, they've tied up a vast majority of their salary cap in 3 players. So they're cutting corners and everything else. And of course they're
according to Ant, he went to Vegas. Pratt did.
Pratt did?
Yep.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that. So yeah, I didn't figure he would last very long because he's a good player. But
right, commodity for sure.
Oh,
great comment by Dave.
Yeah, I'll put that up there. Vikings talked to reporters about not revealing things could give the team a disadvantage, like what Beeflo was doing. Yeah, I suppose that could very well be. And I guess I don't blame him for doing that.
Oh yeah, it just makes sense. That's how he should have been, anyways, to begin with.
Right. Yep. But yeah, another thing with the Bengals, you see their first round draft pick, Shamar, whatever. Can't remember his last name.
Yeah, he's holding out.
He's holding out. Shamar Stewart, yeah. And now is threatening. He's on basically at the point where he may sit out and just re-enter the 2026 draft now.
Wow.
I mean, I don't agree with the
way. That is really that. It's looking pretty ugly over there in Cincinnati right now with all this fucking all this shit storm going on over there. Basically,
You
it's not
can't go
good.
back. You can't go back to college. I don't believe, Ant, but he
No,
can sit out
it's
and
like
he can sit out and re-enter the draft next year. But
yeah.
there really isn't that. I don't know what he's arguing over because the rookie wage scale for first round picks
It's
is
just
pretty
it
much
is what it
set.
is. Yeah, exactly. That's
There's
what it is.
some guarantees and some stuff like that, maybe, but nothing ungodly.
Nothing that should warrant a holdout.
Yeah. Ant does bring up a good point though, because I don't know if there's a possibility that they
I do
maybe
not
could.
believe. I'm almost 100% certain that you cannot go back into
There is
college to
some
play.
there's some sort of a rule in place, but I remember when I was listening to during the draft when we had the Shedeur Sanders free fall, one of the national guys on, I think it was on NFL Network because I didn't watch the garbage on ESPN, but somebody had made a mention about the fact that there's a rule, but if it was brought into court, they didn't know that it would stand.
See, I believe he could most likely go to like the off-season football programs that they have out there, like the Arena League
The
or the
UFL or something,
USFL.
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But anyway, enough about the Bengals. We're on a couple
You
other
think they'd be
things.
compensated for that pick then if that was the case? But anyways, yeah, enough about the
Yeah,
Bengals.
they're just out of pick at that point in time, I think, but because he's never actually signed a contract. So,
Right.
but a ton of off the training field Vikings news. First off, of course, looking at the wide receiver 3 area, Jalen Naylor changed numbers and came in.
It looks fucking huge now too.
Bulked up quite a bit, and the way it's from everything I've been hearing, he's been looking really good in camp. Well, he's coming into a contract year, so it's now or never.
Honestly, Rhino, and I know we're kind of backpedaling here with my statement I'm about to say, but I think Naylor would have had a much better season with a quarterback that was willing to hit those intermediate routes on a more regular basis. Because there was times you see Naylor streaking across the field wide open, and if he was given the ball there, he would have made a catch.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree with that.
I think he could have had a breakout season last year if they would have been looked at more often. So
yeah, possibility, and he stayed healthy all last year, which is a key for him too. So,
but yeah, he looks amazing coming into minicamp, and he's had pretty rave reviews as far as the offseason goes so far, and what's going on.
Yeah. Then while we're on the skill positions, a lot of tight end news. Was it yesterday or day before? I think it was. Tight end Josh Oliver signed a 3-year, $23.25 million extension, giving him $11.9 million in new guarantees and $19.9 million total guarantees.
I was really kind of surprised by this signing because a lot of the rumor mill was talking about how he might not sign at all and just play out the final year of his contract.
Mm-hmm.
I expected a Metella signing before that, but very much surprised that they came to an agreement, and I'm happy to keep him on board.
Yeah, I mean, he's very underrated as a pass catcher, and I know Wes Phillips was raving about his blocking abilities. We all knew because he had that in Baltimore too, but haven't heard anything on Ty Felton. Think that's a good thing. I mean, he's a rookie. I heard some good things about him early on in his route running and stuff like that, but it's going to be, there's no need to rush him along because you've got Jalen Naylor and Addison and Jefferson ahead of him. Plus you've got,
and that's just a lot of the talk is about the top 3 guys. I'm not hearing much talk about anybody after that.
No. George, good evening. Means we're going to run the rock more. They're making a conscious effort. They're going to want to run the ball, which I've been asking for ever since Kevin O'Connell's been here, really, because they really haven't had that, other than a little bit of Dalvin Cook the first year. But
I think we're going to be seeing a lot more physical team this season than what we've seen since O'Connell's been here as a head coach.
I think so too. Speaking of run game and blocking and stuff, Tristan Jackson is not on the squad. He is signed with the Cardinals late last year, so he's on their roster. They plucked him off the practice squad, I believe it was. But the biggest news probably out of the OTAs to start with, and Brunswick just got...
We're good.
Okay, you're back.
I'm here.
probably the biggest and best news so far to come out of training camp is when the mini camp opened up. One of the first guys trotting out onto the field for individual drills was left tackle Christian Darasaw. So
Yeah, and back doing individual drills. That's fantastic news.
yeah, so he's from all indications, he's on track to be ready to start week 1. So that's great.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that brace he's wearing? That thing is fucking massive.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not cleared for contact or anything like that yet. But
seeing him out there moving is good. Is all pointing to good things.
Yeah,
especially with how careful this training staff has been in past years, and not letting people go too quickly. But seeing him out there running individual drills is definitely positive. It's positive.
Yep. Well, and then they already had Robinson running with the ones at left guard for a lot of the stuff, and then Blake Brando was bouncing around. He was playing a little bit of tackle. He was playing a little bit of guard. He was on the right
Donovan
side.
Jackson, Donovan Jackson's starting at left guard already, right?
Yep. But Brandel may be your starter at. Well, Will Freeze should be ready to go by training camp. They've been taking him slow too because he had that injury from last year.
The broken tibia, I think, is what that was.
Yeah, so one of the leg bones anyway.
No, and Donovan Jackson got the start.
Sorry, Robinson. Yeah, I don't know. Forgive me, I got something name mixed up on my notes here. Donovan Jackson. I'm sorry.
Damn it, Rhino.
Yeah. Jesus.
I'm the one with the name problems, guys. For the most part,
we're gonna mix it up a little bit this year, and I'm gonna fuck stuff up.
Walter Ross absolutely holds the door. But you know what? I think our 5 starters are basically penciled in, but I could see Rouse being a good swing guy somewhere along the line. He's not.
They've been working Rouse out inside at guard too. So I mean, yeah,
I look for Rouse and Juergens to be a lock for the final 53.
Well, Juergens is your backup center right now.
Yeah. But I think our starting 5 are basically locked in. It's just everything else is wide open. I think after that, I look for Rouse and Juergens to make the roster, but everything after that's wide open. So.
Mm-hmm. And then Ryan Kelly, the center we got in here, they asked him about what he thought about everything so far, and he said that this is the most talented team he's ever been around, top to bottom. He said it's impressive just how good this team is going to be. Ryan is here, of course. But anyway, do you want to talk about the rest of minicamp first, or the cornerback stuff before we get going here?
Take it away, whatever you want to go.
Well, let's go. Let's finish off the minicamp stuff, then we'll talk about the cornerback rumors and stuff at the end here. Of course, you've had KOC out there with his pressers weekly as it's gone through here.
What the fuck? Where the hell he been?
Brunswick was on a world tour, and I was farming, so
I was off on vacation.
Yep. But Kevin O'Connell, when they've been talking about, JJ McCarthy's progress and everything else, and he's always been quick to preface it with, you can't take too much out of what you're seeing on the field right now because it's learning time. It's the key thing is not that you don't make mistakes. It's if you do make a mistake that you're learning from that. And
it's taking the risks now during this part of the the off season, so then you don't make those mistakes later on when it comes time to matter.
Right. And one of the other
losing their shit on JJ throwing 3 picks in consecutive days.
Yeah. But then he turns right around after that and comes firing back with it, just like he did in that one preseason game he played last year. He threw the interception and learned from it and came back and threw 3 touchdowns. I mean,
right.
But one of the big things, though, and we'll talk a little bit more about McCarthy here in a minute, but one of the biggest things that's been going on this entire offseason is that Justin Jefferson has been there for everything.
Yep.
His locker's right next. his locker's right next to JJ's. They were at the Wolves playoff games together. They've been out. He
Culture.
Yep, Colt, absolutely. And Kevin O'Connell or Jefferson had mentioned this. O'Connell had talked to him in the offseason about how important the leadership is and all this other stuff. And Jefferson took it to heart. He's been here for everything.
So blessed to have him on this team, and for him to just get it, what it means to really be an example to everybody else on the team with the status that he has, and to be here and to understand where this team is, what this team is capable of, and where it is capable of going. It's just showing right now.
Well, and they talked to Jefferson, and asked him about, what his plans were for, the month off that they have coming up here now. He said, yeah, they're going to take a few days to rest and get their minds and, mentally and everything back in shape. But he said him and McCarthy are planning on working out during this month, throwing together.
Yeah.
And he said, I've invited Jordan Addison to make sure he's there too. And then
make sure he's there for sure.
Right. And then when they were talking to McCarthy, he's like, the plan is I'm going to be in Minneapolis. He said, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be working out. He said, I want to throw it with Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, all those guys as much as I possibly can. And he said, the goal is to do it here. He said, but if I got to go to them, I will go to them to do it.
Bring up Ryan Bianconi's. Yeah, I believe we're watching the beginning of a dynasty. To be honest with you, I know I mean sound like I'm drinking the purple Kool-Aid, but this is what championship teams do.
Yeah. I'm drinking a margarita. I'm not drinking a purple Kool-Aid, but
I'm drinking some caramel coffee over here. But yeah, I mean I've been saying it a lot ever since O'Connell came in. It's a different feel here.
Yeah, no, I truly believe that Kevin O'Connell will win or will bring a Super Bowl championship to Minnesota within the next few years. And I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be the quarterback that helps deliver that.
And I don't think it's going to be just one. I think we're going to be contending for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that possibility. I just want to get one out of the way first, and then we'll worry about multiples. But, it's just the stuff that, and building something like this takes a little bit of time. We're going into year 4 now. We've won 12 and 13 games or 13 and 14 games, sorry, in 2 of the last 3 years. So, I mean, the regular season stuff, it's there. It's now just getting that over the hump. And there's a conscious effort for that with the upgrades to the offensive line, which we knew was not good enough last year. And then, bringing in Jordan Mason to help beef up the running game and re-signing Josh Oliver and all, fixing the trenches on both sides, bringing in the defensive tackles that we brought in. It's
that physical aspect of the game, more physicality, because we've been so finesse. We really have, and since O'Connell's been here. Yeah. You'd be surprised how often I sit around, Ryan, and try to pronounce your last name in my head. I think I finally got it down. Bianconi.
Yeah. Skull for Life Barber, good evening. But yeah, McCarthy's talking, or O'Connell's been talking about how well he's been retaining information. He said that there's been times when they were talking about something that, and McCarthy will say, yeah, well, you do this, this, and this. And then they're like, how the hell do you know that? Well, we did it. We talked about last year. And he said
retention.
They may have talked about it for 10 minutes during a game install last year when he was sitting there listening, just sitting there in the quarterback room, just watching, listening, and learning. And even though he couldn't be on the field last year, just being
the dude's a football junkie. He's a junkie. He's a football fucking junkie.
He absolutely is. But being there and learning all that stuff and
the way he goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I agree with, and there was a thing, he talked about this, I think in his first presser at the beginning of the offseason activities here, that I think he's actually been diagnosed with having a little bit of ADHD. But, he said in certain people, it affects certain people different ways. He finds calm within the within the chaos.
Yeah.
So it seemed, and that's, so the more chaotic a game gets and more stuff on the line, the calmer he is. He gets that, he's got that ice water running through his veins. And we saw it even in Michigan where everybody says, oh, he didn't do anything. Don't look at the stats, look at the situation.
When it matters, it's kind of funny because it kind of goes with exactly what O'Connell said since he came in, when your best is required.
Yep. Be at your best and your best is required. 3rd and long, 4th and long, in distance.
And he was the
Michigan,
best in his class in those situations. He was the best quarterback in his class when put in those spots. 3rd and longs, 4th downs, you must have it. He was the best in his class.
Yeah, he's not going to be throwing short of the sticks on 4th down with the playoffs on the line or nothing like that. Oop, hold on.
This guy cares about the game of football, truly, and being great.
He does.
Striving for greatness is what takes that it factor and brings it to the next level.
Yep. And that's, Alec,
people doubt his capabilities. You got some of these mainstream guys, Colin Cowherd specifically, saying, "Oh, his arm is suspect. His athleticism is suspect." It's a complete opposite.
Yeah. As I said, tell me you've never watched J.J. McCarthy play football without telling me you've never watched J.J. McCarthy play football. But I was talking to somebody on Twitter X today about that, and it's the thing of it. McCarthy beat the Darlings that year en route to winning the championship. They beat Ohio State. They beat Alabama. When it came down to it, he got shit done. But to that Colin Cowherd comment, I did have that in my notes here, so glad you brought it up. Judd Zulgad asked JJ about that at his presser today. And, McCarthy, he was being diplomatic a little bit to begin with, and he's like, because Judd asked him, well, where do you think this stuff comes from? Because obviously from what we've seen out here, it's not a problem. He's like, well, he said, I don't know. They don't, there's looking at a guy that's not 6'5", 240 or something like, that kind of stuff. And
how Michigan ran the offense too. He mentioned that too.
Yeah, he mentioned that, and he said, but a guy that can't throw it doesn't throw it 61 miles an hour at the combine. He did bring that up, and then he did. He's
that little wink, nudge, nudge type of thing. Yeah.
Well, and then at the very end, he said, "Those who know."
Exactly. He's talking about us.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we know, but
right.
Kevin O'Connell and all those guys, they know what he's.
That's a nice little sly comment there. The ones that know.
Yeah. Now he did fully admit that where he still needs the most work is putting the right amount of touch on some of this stuff. I think, and in that mindset, he's got a little bit of Brett Favre to him. We brought this up before, but I think he wants to be able to. He can throw it through a freaking brick wall if he wants to.
Yeah, the velocity.
It's just getting that touch right so you can drop it in the bucket instead of trying to throw it through somebody.
And he mentioned that too in his presser, that he's been working on that as well. His pitches.
Yep.
And speeds. AJ, I got it off, I think, like DXL.com. It was a big and tall store I got this off of, my sleeveless hoodie. I so valiantly wear all the time.
Yeah. Ryan brings up, haven't seen potential at quarterback like JJ. Tommy Kramer was the first. He was my first favorite player, really, especially on the Vikings. So, I was old enough to remember most of his career, and I loved Kramer, but JJ McCarthy he's got even more moxie and that
aura.
Aura. People have still been talking about that, raving about it at training camp, that he's just got that natural draw that just attracts everybody to him. And it's, and here's we've heard all this crap, the quarterback shit with Cowherd. Oh yeah. They were trying everything to not go with McCarthy. No, they offered Sam Darnold a cheap ass contract. If he took it, He was going to come back, and there would have been a competition, but let's be honest, McCarthy would have beat him out.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I don't think Darnold. I don't believe that we had any intention on ever bringing Darnold back. It was the same thing with Kirk Cousins when Kirk left to go to Atlanta.
With Darnold, it was more of a, we'll give you a deal if you can't go find something else.
We've been saying this since day one. They know what they've wanted to do in the last 3 years since the first time they stepped into the building and discussed it.
Right. You know, and they gave Daniel Jones an offer, but he wanted an opportunity to fight for a starting job. He knew he wasn't going to get it here. So he said, no, I'm going to go to Indy. So Vikings pulled the offer. They had 3 months worth of opportunity to sign Aaron Rodgers. If they were at least bit concerned about McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers was camped out in the parking lot at TCO like a homeless vagabond for 3 months with the boombox over his head, standing outside KOC's window.
And Bob's, to reply to Bob's comment here, we're set in the quarterback room, and the way it's looking right now, Ant's darling quarterback Max Brosmer's balling at camp. They're saying a lot of good things about Brosmer, and I think him and Rippon
could be QB3 after this. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. You know, that KOC's kind of had his eye on him ever since 2 years ago when Brosmer had been on the campus of U of M like a week. And they needed somebody to throw for pro day, so he went out there and started throwing, And Carson Wentz, they're not going to bring him in unless there's an injury or something. They had every opportunity. They could have signed him for nothing, and they traded for Sam Howell. So
it's set. We're set at quarterback right now, unless something happens with Howell.
With one of the guys or something, So, I mean, there's going to be a competition, I think, for QB3 between Rippon and Brosmer. And whichever one doesn't make it probably ends up on the practice squad. But one thing I did want to bring up, though, Alec Lewis has been talking a little bit here the last couple days. He said, what he's been watching, he said J.J. McCarthy has not missed a beat from last year. He looks every bit the guy that was turning heads at the end of camp last year before he got hurt.
But I got kicked out and came back in.
Yeah, I see that. But his quote was, let's be very clear on this. J.J. McCarthy has not struggled in training camp. So Brunswick's having a little bit of computer issues there. He's froze up. But are you back?
I'm back. Yeah. What was that quote?
Alec Lewis said, let me make this perfectly clear. J.J. McCarthy has not been struggling during training camp.
Yeah, McCarthy's definitely the starter.
Yeah. So, and there's everybody outside the national guys, the Vikings have concerns with J.J. McCarthy. No, they don't. Shut the fuck up. They don't.
No, they don't.
If they did, honestly,
I would think that the Vikings would rather have everybody believe that, so let that rumor continue.
Yeah.
Because we're going to unleash all fucking hell and fury when it comes week 1 in the NFL season with J.J. McCarthy. He's going to be ready to go, and I think he's going to be shot out of the cannon coming out week 1.
Yeah, this is the next guy I was going to bring up.
Yes.
Zamiah Vaughn, undrafted free agent cornerback out of Utah, has been flashing constantly the way it sounds. He's always around the ball and never seems like he's out of place. He's not getting beat. This might be.
He's going to be battling Nudie for that last spot, I think.
I think Nudie makes it, but it might be one of these other guys, lower end guys because they probably keep 6 cornerbacks, I would think. But
I mean, Okuda's going to be fighting for his career here. Not so much, but he's going to be definitely fighting for a roster spot.
Okuda's not set on this team.
No, he's not a lock.
No.
But yes, Vaughn has looked amazing.
Yep. I mean,
he can't given his undrafted tag.
Yeah, he could be, and again, it's early, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here. But, right now he's got the early edge on being, this year's Ivan Pace or Bo Richter kind of guy, so.
Well, Nudie made the roster too last year, so.
Yeah. Yeah, Okuda's had a lot of health issues. That's very true, Ant. Now, if he can stay healthy, I mean, the guy was a great cornerback in college.
Oh yeah. That's why he was highly touted
Yeah,
coming out.
when he was top 5 picks. So.
I'm gonna say this though, and then this might lead you into to talk about the corners here, but I think what we've done this offseason at the position really shows a lot of belief in that room right now.
Yeah.
And Flores was glazing Rodgers. I think Flores has high hopes for Isaiah Rodgers going into this season. He apparently, according to KOC, there's only a few certain guys that Flores really gushes over, and Isaiah Rodgers was one of the guys that he really pounded the table in to get here.
Well, yeah, that's from what I hear. It was almost he was demanding that they sign him at the start of free agency.
Yeah, yep.
So I mean that's a good sign. I mean, Brian Flores in the 2 years he's been here has earned, the right to make those calls and those decisions on guys, and he's been right on everybody more often than not on the guys that he's brought in here to make this defense.
Just those two guys last year we brought in, and Gernard and Van Ginkel. Look at
and Cashman. Those 3 guys last year.
Yeah, impact right away off the bat.
Yep.
Took this defense to the next level.
Yep. So now
I can't wait until week 1.
Yep. So now to close up on the defense before we go into the cornerbacks, I want to talk about the Dallas Turner thing. Everybody's what happened with Dallas Turner? Judd Zulgad said in his afternoon Judd this afternoon that Dallas Turner, he believes, is the guy that's poised to have a massive breakout year here. He said he's running all over the place. They're using him in multiple positions.
He looks bigger too.
Yeah, he put on some weight and stuff, and they said to his credit, he said he's been like a sponge. He didn't, take the fact that he didn't go out there and, play 500 snaps or whatever as a bad thing. He took it as a learning experience, and now that Pat Jones is gone, he's, OLB 3.
No disgruntledness whatsoever. He understands what's going on.
So, and he had.
And the thing is, people want to talk about how Jared Verse came in and just tore us up. People got to remember that Dallas Turner just turned 22. Jared Verse is 24 years old.
Right. And Jared Verse played twice as many snaps as Dallas Turner did, and he only had 2 more sacks.
Yeah.
Turner had 3 and Verse had 5, I think it was.
I think Turner's going to have a huge. He went from having like 200 snaps last season, or a little over 250 snaps last season. I look for him to have closer to 700 to 800 snaps this season.
Yeah, I don't know. Remember what Pat Jones had for snaps last year, but you fully expect him to get at least that.
There's nothing wrong with we might have the best edge rushing group in the NFL right now with Van Ginkel and Grenard and then Turner coming up back.
Yeah, and they're absolutely going to have packages with all 3 of them guys on the field at one time.
And we're not even talking about the 2 dogs on the defensive line and Hargraves and Allen. Allen. And then Harrison Phillips, who has been really underrated as far as his pass rush goes, might even elevate his game a little bit as well, having those guys next to him.
Right. And Phillips is still playing nose tackle, and I still don't believe that Harrison Phillips is a true nose tackle, but
I say you pop Hargraves in a nose tackle and put Phillips on the outside, and then Allen on the other.
Hargraves I don't know that he's played a ton of nose. I mean, he's big.
He's a little bit. He's a bigger built guy than Phillips is, though, in my opinion. He looks more the part than Phillips does.
Well, and I mean,
Phillips is kind of a tweener looking a little bit there.
And we know, like we talked about with Dallas Turner, Beeflo is going to be moving these guys around, and so one time they'll have their hand in the dirt, one time they may be standing out, standing up in a 2-point stance, rushing the quarterback. It's, I'm excited to see what year 3 of the Flores defense is going to be now that he's pretty much got what he wants in there. But that leads us to probably the biggest question mark yet on this defense is the cornerback group. Now, of course, there's a lot of rumors out there rolling around. Jaire Alexander got released by Green Bay earlier this week. There's been
no, absolutely not. I want nothing to do with him.
I'm not a fan either. And I
And
know,
it sounds like the organization isn't in on Jaire
yeah,
too.
they said at least initially they haven't been, but our buddy Tyler Fornes, he tweeted right after Alexander was released that he thought that
Yeah.
he'd be a Viking by
Yeah.
the end of the week because it just
And he
made too
wasn't.
much sense.
In fairness to him, he wasn't the only one out there that was saying that
No,
either. But
no, and I can see it. I just I don't like the injury issues with him.
that's the biggest thing for me. He's played 7 games in the last 2 seasons, and he played a full slate of games the season before that. And I think he played 4 games the season before. The dude can't stay healthy for a full entire
No,
season.
and he's a head case. We saw that where he
Right.
almost got his team in trouble. Was it last year, 2 years ago, when he walked out for the coin toss when he's not even wasn't even a captain.
Right.
Dave,
No,
yeah, I don't think he's going to be either.
it's a no
Now,
for me.
yeah, it is for me too. Now if they sign him, it'll be a 1-year cheap prove it deal, but I don't. I think there's
I'd
better
be
stairs
I'd be
elsewhere.
I'd be more interested, and I know that you might not. I could see you not liking this idea either. But if Jalen Ramsey was available, I would rather go that route.
Jalen Ramsey is available, and no, I still don't want to go that route. He's He's going to be 31 here, I believe, in September. He wants a lot of money, and you're going to have to give up draft compensation for him.
Yeah, if I was to have to choose between Alexander and Ramsey, I'd go Ramsey. Basically, is what I'm saying here. But given the fact that Alexander's on the free agent market, I still know. And people forget that when we continue to go throughout the off season and into training camp and at the end of training camp, there's going to be a lot of decent guys that if we really wanted to pick somebody up, there might be available there as well.
And there's still decent guys out there right now. I mean, we've talked, at length
Rasul
about
Douglas.
Rasul Douglas is out there now. He's 31, so he's getting toward the end of his thing. Mike Hilton, same thing. Mike Hilton's more of a slot guy, so I'm not real interested in him. James Bradbury, he's 32, so I'm probably out on him. But a couple of the big ones that we've talked about, Asante Samuel Jr. still has not signed with anybody. Now, of course, we did find out that he had that shoulder surgery in April, but now I believe it's the week after the 4th, I believe he goes back in to get it checked out. And if his medicals clear out, then he'll sign.
That'll make things interesting.
He'll sign with somebody by training camp.
That'll make things interesting. And the thing is, though, Rhinos, we still have there's got to be something going on in the bag because we got all this cap space left as well.
Well, I mean, we did use some of it up now when we re-signed Josh Oliver, but.
And I look for us to re-sign Metellus sooner than later as well.
Metellus needs a contract extension too. So there was some talk that he was maybe doing his sit-in here at the beginning of OTAs and stuff, but
I'm in with Ant here on his comment about just roll with the guys that we already have in our secondary, unless something that unforeseen in training camp comes about to where we just don't feel comfortable with who we have. Because right now it feels like we feel like we're comfortable with who we got.
I think so too.
And I like the youth that we have and the athleticism in that group that we have right now with Rogers, with Blackman coming back, with Murph, and then you got this Vaughn and Nudie who's is hungry just for some time.
And we'll see what Jeff Okuda can bring to the table.
Right.
One other guy that's sitting out there that we could have signed at any point in time, who we were in on like last year or the year before, whatever it was, Jack Jones. He's still sitting out there.
Right. Yeah.
So the fact that we haven't brought any of those guys in, I thought maybe after the post June 1 thing, they might have done something. But, the fact that they haven't brought anybody else in leads me to believe, like what you were saying, is that they are, at least for the time being, at the very worst, satisfied with who they have.
I mean, you can't argue the talent is there in that cornerback room, and the athletic ability is there in that cornerback room. Can they learn to play within the system is what it is.
Yeah.
So.
And, I mean, we know what Byron Murphy can do. I mean, we saw that last year.
Blackman looked really promising in his rookie season.
Yep. McGlothern.
That missing his second season really concerns me. Missing the second season as a corner is going to be tough, adjusting back to the speed of the NFL. I
mean, McGlothern played well in a few snaps that he got.
He did.
We talked about Okuda. He's got talent. And Isaiah Rogers.
Great point by Norspius. Great point by Norse.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, look at what we did last year with
You're not gonna have to cover for fucking 15 seconds.
Yeah, old guys, Shaq Griffin and Stephon Gilmore. I mean, we weren't getting zero interior pass rush for the most part, and they were still holding up fairly well in the back end. So, the other one that's going to be interesting to see is Theo Jackson coming in as the starter, taking over for Cam Bynum. Now, I don't remember who put the list out, but they had the list of potential breakout players for 2025. Theo Jackson was on that list.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see it. He makes plays when he's on the field.
Yeah. He always has. It's been limited roles and stuff, but when he's had to come in and play for a while, he's more than held his own. AJ, yeah, here, that's another couple of...
A lot of those names that you're naming are definitely guys that are hungry. Redmond, I think, is being overlooked a lot.
Yeah.
Levi Drake might have another year before he really, translates into a rotational piece.
Oh, PFF. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, I knew it was somebody, but I couldn't remember who it was. Well, and then another guy we're forgetting about because he got hurt and didn't play toward the end of the season. Taki Tiamani, in it that he's more of a true nose tackle. He's that bigger dude that, maybe can develop into something that can replace Harrison Phillips in a year or two. Because Phillips is starting to get up in age there too. I mean, he's pushing 30 if he's not there already.
Yep.
Is Theo Jackson ready to be a starter? I believe he is.
I believe so, 100%. 1,000% ready to go. I think he's going to be huge.
And more importantly, I think the team believes it, because if they didn't believe in him being a starter, then they would have brought in somebody else, in free agency or, AJ, another great, Redmond. I love what Jalen Redmond came in and did last year.
And he had some pass rush. He's a fast dude.
Yeah, he's got
bigger size.
He's got pass rush ability, and he's going to rotate in.
But he's really good against the run. Excellent against the run, at least as far as last year goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had guys, that were good against the run. Bullard and those guys were good run stuffers too. It just you never got any pass rush out of any of them. Redmond can pass rush, and now and people don't realize he's young. He's a up and comer. Redmond is. He's, what is he, 24, 25, something like that?
Yeah, I think he was this is maybe his third season, and he played a season in the UFL.
Played the UFL, yeah. So but he's right in that prime range, that mid 20s where these guys start hitting their prime.
As much as people want to shit talk Quessy and all that, this dude has done a great job at making this roster happen.
Well, that's one more thing we forgot to mention here that happened during our hiatus. Quessy got his extension.
Right. Yep.
He's
well deserved.
Yep.
I'm happy that him and O'Connell are tied together. I love the relationship. Those guys, I think they're on the same page with one another. I think they're in tune. I think it's a package there with those guys. And what a fantastic job KOC and Quessy, especially with putting together this roster that we have right now. And with the outlook and how the salary cap looks going forward, they're doing it very intelligently.
Yeah, now
it's sustainable. It's sustainable.
Yep. Now next year our salary cap right now is kind of shitty, but there's going to be some stuff they'll be able to do to take care of that. But and I believe Stephon Gilmore has unofficially retired. He hasn't put his papers in with the league, but he's not really actively looking for a job either. It's, I think, one of those things that if somebody calls and it's a right fit, he probably would throw the cleats back on for another go. But if not, he's, I believe, content with what he's done in his career, and by all accounts, probably ready to hang it up. So, in a pinch, say mid-season or something like that, and somebody goes down, you need a cornerback badly, I'd give him a call. But Shaq Griffin's still out there too. I know he's gone and talked to Seattle a couple times, but he hasn't signed back yet either. So,
and he had a stellar season last year for us, I must say.
Yeah, we sang Shaq Griffin's praises
numerous times on the show.
Numerous times during the year, because the key is you never really heard his name during the game, which means they weren't throwing at him.
Right.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of storylines on this team coming, still coming. At least we can finally put the Aaron Rodgers one to bed. That's done. He's officially signed with the Steelers. Although not 10 minutes after that happened, I see a freaking thing coming out that ESPN put something out that the most ideal landing spots for Kirk Cousins is with the Minnesota Vikings. We are not bringing back Kirk Cousins.
No, we're not. No.
And I'm going to just quick brief rant on this because we've done it a lot, but I don't understand what the fucking obsession with the national media about trying to get anybody in at quarterback other than JJ McCarthy. The only thing I can think of is, the Vikings have traditionally been, for lack of a better term, the whipping post for the national media. They've lost 4 Super Bowls. They're this plucky little team that's always good, never good enough kind of stuff. And deep down, I think they're not going to say it on there because then they're going to be going against their narratives. But I think they truly probably deep down believe that might be coming to an end because, of the team there is. And you can say this Colin Cowherd click shit and everything else he's been putting out there for all of it. You cannot look at JJ McCarthy's entire body of work and tell me that kid does not have what it takes to be a very good starting quarterback in this league.
I just don't understand. I don't understand how people can come away with that view after watching him play.
It's lazy. Oh, he didn't throw the ball 75 times a game in Michigan. Just because he didn't do it doesn't mean that he can't do it. The thing is, Rhino. Go ahead, and then I'll finish my little rant. But
the thing is, Rhino, is this isn't the same Vikings that you've seen for the last 60 years.
No,
Kevin O'Connell, Wesley are turning the ball in a different, and the people that you're talking about in their defense, they're used to seeing us going out and getting retread quarterbacks. They're used to seeing us going out and having to play second string guys, because of tragedy or what have you. I mean, going back to Warren Moon, coming in for our last ride, they're used to seeing that. This is a different Vikings organization.
Right.
This is us taking that risk, taking our shot, and going with it and seeing what happens when we do something different.
Yep.
Drafted a quarterback 10th overall, the highest we've ever drafted a quarterback in franchise history. Let's see what the future holds for us now.
Right. But, back to this whole thing that, he didn't throw the ball in Michigan. Harbaugh had that team built a lot like
he's building the team he has right now.
Right. I mean, but, he had that just ground and pound. We're going to come and punch you in the face repeatedly until you make a stop. It's a different scale, obviously, being Michigan versus like North Dakota State does the same thing with their mantra for decades has been, we're going to line up and we're going to run the ball right down your fucking throat. Try to stop us. And NDSU's won 10 national championships doing that. Michigan was kind of the same way because they had such a dominant line. They had such a dominant running game. When you can physically beat your opponent into submission and take away their will to play, you don't need to go out there and put up 60 points and throw the ball 50 times a game.
Right.
Because if you can remove your opponent's will to continue on because you wear them down and you beat them down, that's 2/3 of the win right there. But
you're going to see a lot. You're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of that moving forward with our team, I believe, as well. Going with that ground and pound and just taking the will out of other teams out of the game, and then marrying that with the play action, especially. You're going to see a lot of play action, a lot of getting McCarthy out of the pocket, I believe, too.
Oh, yeah.
And making some plays with his legs on bootlegs and stuff like that.
Yeah, because that's a very even more underrated part of his game, maybe than his arm strength, is his mobility.
They don't. A lot of people don't understand just how much athletic ability McCarthy has. And making plays with his legs just as well as he can with his arm. and being able to throw from different angles. And I mean, the dude has a hose for an arm. So
Well, and if you have listened to any of the official ambassador for the JJ McCarthy fan club, Thor Nystrom, one of the things he's been talking about the whole time is JJ McCarthy is one of those rare quarterbacks who maintains his mechanics while he's throwing on the run.
yes.
And it's Jordan Mason. I'm really excited to see what that kid is doing to me. I really liked what he did when he stepped in for McCaffrey last year. I mean, he ran for 100 yards against us. I mean, he was.
This is a aha kind of thing here, Rhino. The biggest thing that this team needs to work on is not shooting yourself in the foot during games.
Absolutely.
This team under O'Connell has been horrible when it comes to turning the ball over. That's the biggest issue in my book right now moving forward into next season is eliminating those issues.
Mm-hmm. Or this untimed holding penalty, when you're at about the opponent's 40-yard line.
Third down and 2, and you get a holding penalty to push you back.
It becomes 3rd and 12 and pushes you out of field goal range and that kind of stuff.
The biggest thing to me is the turnover battle. Though towards the end of last season, we got it under. We were playing a lot better ball when it came to the turnover issues like that. But I mean, that has been a big issue since O'Connell's gotten here. Is not being able to hold on to the fucking football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially 2023 season was awful that way, and then
the 2024 season started off pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what was it? The first game we had 2 fumbles right out the gate almost.
Yeah.
So it's no guard stepping on a quarterback's foot. Yeah. Well, Ed Ingram is gone, so we don't have to worry about that so much anymore. But no, there's a lot of legitimate optimism for this team this year. I know it. I keep telling myself it's minicamp and OTAs. Don't overhype yourself. Don't overhype, but there's just something. It seems like something different this year. I mean, I know we've said that before too.
We've been waiting for this moment though for about a year and a half now, Rhino, for this JJ McCarthy era to begin. So
yeah, and is there going to be bumps in the road for him this? Yeah, obviously there's going to be.
I think he's going to learn from every single one of those bumps, though. He's the type of guy that's going to learn and dust himself off and play the next series like the last one didn't even happen. So
yep. Well, and that's one thing he brought up the other day too, when he was talking is you got to have a real short memory about this kind of stuff. You got to or be able to move on from it quickly and learn from it and move on. Not, again, go back to Kirk Cousins for a minute. The man is still obsessing over an interception he threw at Michigan State.
Yeah.
The first thing he said in the post-game press conference after that Justin Jefferson catch in Buffalo, I shouldn't have thrown that ball. No, right. Kirk, you should have thrown the ball. But that was one thing I had to laugh when they're talking to Justin Jefferson this week or so ago. And they asked him what was one of the first things that, he has told JJ McCarthy about this stuff. He said, "Look at me, I'm open."
Yeah.
And McCarthy's going to have that confidence in Jefferson to know that, if there's even the slightest little window that he can get it, a 50-50 ball for most players is probably a 70-30 ball for Jefferson.
And I believe that McCarthy has all the confidence in the world in his arm that he can do it. I mean, we've seen on film him fit fucking footballs through windows literally this big.
Yep.
In between two guys. You all know the play against, I think, in Nebraska.
Yep.
I think maybe it was Ohio State, right in between the two defenders, and then for a touchdown. It was an insane play by McCarthy while in college.
When they played against Alabama, when
and he had Turner in his face.
We had that throwback. Yeah, the one that throwback. He had to jump in the air to catch it. Dallas Turner bearing down on him. and he comes to, and he barely lands, and he pitches it and gets a 20-yard gain out of it, and then
That's that's Brett Favre shit right there. Yeah.
gets piled into the turf by Dallas Turner. I mean, he comes up with the
You
grass
got
hanging
people
out.
digging grass out of his helmet after the play. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Patting him on the back.
That is
Yep.
that Brett Favre shit that we saw it when Favre was
That
here.
magic, that magic that certain quarterbacks have.
Yep. And I fully believe J.J. McCarthy has that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the thing with the picks that he's been throwing, and it's a little bit of a concern to me, Rhino. And I'm not very critical of McCarthy very often, but this is I'm going to be a little bit critical on. A lot these interceptions that he's been throwing are the same area of the field, outside the numbers.
Yeah.
So there's in the middle when you ask McCarthy to throw across the middle, he's almost flawless. But once you start to throwing across the field outside the numbers is when he's having his issues. Or like the interception he threw against the Raiders. That's the type of throw I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be fixed.
Because I think a lot of it's he doesn't have that, again, the touch and the leading the receiver correctly quite down yet.
To layer it over the guy.
Yep.
Not throw underneath. You want to layer it over the defender so then only the guy that can, the receiver can get to it.
Right. But a lot of that, was a throw that he could get away with in college.
Right.
But in the pros, you're not going to. And he'll get,
those are the interceptions that he's throwing are on those type of routes.
Right. But, he's got, and, like we said, he's going to be working out with all these guys during the this month off. We've got the entire month of training camp, 3 preseason. I don't know how much J.J. McCarthy is going to play in those preseason games. I would guess.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see.
That's going to be interesting to play a little, but,
Right.
They also want to protect their investment. I think they're going to see a lot more in like the joint practices and that kind of thing because we're having joint practices with New England and are we doing it?
And Tennessee.
And Tennessee.
No?
Yeah, because I think one is here and one is there. I forget which one's which. But
Yep.
So, they're going to see a lot. And the coaches like that a lot more than the games because it's a controlled environment so they can.
It's controlled, right, exactly. Yeah. And then the quarterback's got the red jersey on too, so you're not taking the guy down to the ground.
Right. So, I mean, I probably would expect McCarthy to get maybe
at most a quarter in some game, but then otherwise a couple series.
It's a couple series, and you're going to see a lot of Sam Howell. You're going to see the battle between Rippon and Brosmer.
I could see McCarthy playing like the first quarter in the second game, but maybe a couple series for that first game.
Third game, he won't play at all.
No, the third game he won't play at all. It'll be coming down to Brosmer and Rippon playing for that number 3 spot. It will be really interesting.
Yeah. Couple quarters total for McCarthy would be fine. Yeah, I agree with that. They're gonna know what they got or and what they need to work on.
And I think they're gonna want to keep a lot close to their chest too, because they're not gonna want to reveal too much with their guy coming out the gate. They want him to come out on fire. People.
They want that national stage Chicago Monday Night Football to just be.
How Randy came out back in '98 and everybody was just blown away.
Yep.
I have that same feeling for McCarthy this season, coming out tossing for 3 touchdowns his first game and as a starter. I might be drinking the purple Kool-Aid, but that's just what my gut's telling me.
Yeah, they want him to come walking up, kick that door open, and say, "Hey, I'm here, bitches, let's go." And then
exactly, yes.
So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of storylines coming up. Once camp opens, I think, 26th of July, I think, is when quarterbacks and stuff have to be there, something like that.
That sounds about right. Yep.
So
I think it's like the third day they could put pads on. I think they played in shells the second day, but the third day,
they have to have. I think they have to have 3 practices before they can put on pads. So it would be like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then usually a day off on Sunday, and then I think Monday would be the.
Gosh, this season can't start soon enough.
Yeah. So, but that's all I've got for tonight. You got anything else you want to hit while we're going through here? Or
I think we're good. I think we covered pretty much everything.
Yeah, I mean, we made it around. Big thank you guys for joining us again. We got 40 people in the chat here yet at an hour into it, so really appreciate that. We couldn't do this stuff without you guys. Oh, one thing I forgot to do this last time. I want to do it again. Norsevius is doing some art stuff to help our buddy Rap out. His dad is battling some medical issues, and so they're doing a kind of a raffle thing. I think that's still going on, Norsevius. If correct me if I'm wrong, but go check out Norsevius on his Twitter feed, and you get the information and stuff there. But help out a great cause. Rap's a great guy, and his father, like I said, having some issues, needs a little help. So Vikings Nation, do what you do best and go help out with that. And with that, programming note, with the OTAs and mini camps and everything wrapped up pretty much here, we are going to go on to hiatus for about a month here. We'll be back the week before training camp starts to get everybody wound up and ready for that. I mean, this next month, it's the off time. There's really nothing going on unless something bad happens.
Like we say every year, yes. Unless there's never good news at this time of the season.
So we're gonna take a little time to decompress here and get fired up for the season as well. And summertime, there's always so damn much going on anyway. But we will be back the week before training camp starts to get everybody going for that.
Bums.
And bums, yeah.
Norsevius is gonna miss us. What the fuck were you guys been? That's great.
Yeah, no news is good news, exactly, Dan. But with that, again, thank you all for joining us tonight. I had a great discussion. You guys bring it every week. A lot of great knowledge, a lot of great discussions going on, and I'm excited. I don't want summer to be over very fast, but I'm very, very, very excited for training camp to start. So with that, again, shout out to the Filipino fan club. Shout out to everybody who's watching. Shout out to the Lance's Latina Coalition and all of that. And with that, why don't you take us out of here, Lance?
Yeah, like you said, man, football season can't come soon enough. I am so hyped up for this upcoming season and see what this team can do. I truly believe that we're in for something special this year. And it's going to really be – I'm really going to enjoy watching this team blossom under McCarthy at quarterback. So, with that being said, we'll see y'all in a month. I hope you guys all enjoy your summer up until the last week. I can't wait till we come back the week before training camp. That's when stuff really starts to fucking speed up. So, yeah, I'm excited for that. So we'll see y'all then. I appreciate every single one of you guys coming in here, leaving all this great information and comments down in the comment section. I love you guys. Millie and Aubrey, if you're out there watching, Dad loves and misses you. Skull.
Have a good night, everybody. We'll catch you in about a month.